and welcome to Furious Driving, and today we're at the wheel of something very unusual, very grand and very luxurious. This is a Volkswagen Phaeton. Now you may well be aware of the Phaeton, but the chances are you've never seen one in reality and you've probably never sat in one. It was Volkswagen's ultra luxury car from the early noughties, which ran actually until 2015, but with fewer and fewer sales. This particular car, being a long wheelbase, is one of only 8 sold in the UK. So it's quite an unusual vehicle. But right now, while you go and hit like, and very importantly, go and hit subscribe. That really does matter. We're trying to hit the 100,000 subscriber mark by the end of the year, so please do hit subscribe. It costs nothing, it's a lovely thing to do. A word from our sponsors, and then on with the review.
Furious Driving, proud to be supported by Diamond Bright, protecting, cleaning and caring for the Furious fleet and for yours, with 10% off using code FD10. Follow the links in the description below.
This is the VW Phaeton, a real anachronism, a bizarre choice by Volkswagen to build something like this, but it was Ferdinand Piëch's little pet project, his favourite thing in the world, because he had a bit of an issue with Mercedes and BMW. By the early noughties, the big saloon was already a dying breed. It's dead now, apart from the ultra luxury class where we find this. You still find the S-Class, the 7 Series, the A8, and of course Bentley and Rolls-Royce. But Mercedes and BMW had trodden on Volkswagen's toes. They brought out the A-Class. There was the 3 Series Compact and then the 1 Series. And so Ferdinand was a little bit annoyed, and he wanted to take the game back to them in their court, and he wanted to build the ultimate ultra luxury car. This may seem like a strange choice when they already had Bentley for ultra luxury and had the A8 for standard ultra luxury, but that did mean they had plenty of expertise and they had a platform. This is built on the D1 platform from Volkswagen, which also underpins the Flying Spur, the Continental GT, the A8 and the Porsche Panamera. So lots of good stuff to start with, although whereas the Audi is an aluminium frame, this is steel, and it's a very heavy car and a very luxurious car. Let's take a bit of a look around. Now, one thing you might have noticed already is how long this car is. In standard form, you'll cross a time zone walking from the back to the front. That's 5 meters and 5 millimeters long. This though is a long wheelbase. That's an extra little bit more, 5.1 meters long, as if you needed even more space to get in. You could host a conference in the back of here with many delegates. There's lots of fun stuff in there to talk about. The styling didn't change very much. The car was first built in 2002 and launched in 2003, and it ran all the way up until 2016 in some parts of the world. Stopped running 2006 in America, 2015 in the UK. This is a 2014. There were 5 generations of minor changes, GP0 through to GP4. This is the GP4, and you can tell it had the latest, newest at the time, Volkswagen family face all around it, giving this big integrated thing. You've seen the same thing on Golfs, Passats and the like. And this though is where the problem lies, because although Volkswagen did manage to build what was possibly the best car on the planet at the time, this badge doesn't necessarily say 70 to 80,000 pounds. This says more 15 to 20,000 pounds, maybe 30,000 for a GTI. It was an image problem. They wanted to bring the brand upmarket so they could charge more for the cars, and this was a halo project, if you like. It was a difficult sell, and only certain specially trained dealers were allowed to sell them and also service them as well. And to that end, despite the investment, despite the quality and the fact this was one of the best, as I say, the best car you could buy in the world, because they benchmarked the S-Class, the A8, the 7 Series, all these cars, and they beat them in every metric they could. At the end of the day, it's still a Volkswagen, and if you're spending that kind of money, you want your keys to say something when you drop them on the table at the golf club. Let's come inside the Phaeton, have a little look around. The door handles actually feel a little bit plasticky, surprisingly so in fact, considering how heavy this door is, and the heft of this door is fantastic. It feels like it could be bulletproof or something. This is partly down to the fact we have got double glazed windows, which add a lot of weight but keep all of the noise out. And looking inside this door, it is absolutely beautiful. There's no cheap scratchy plastic in here. Everything is basically ultra premium. So we've got this beautiful inlaid real, obviously wood, nice shiny metal door handles, satin plastic finish on everything else. This is lock and unlock, Dyne audio system with tweeters up here, big speakers down there, leather insert down here, nice armrest, more satin plastic, and then electric everything, electric windows, electric boot release, electric fuel cap, all tucked in there, and a nicely carpeted fold-out door pocket. Now this is one I've not come across before. Here in the middle of the windows, we've got a rear window lockout, but we have not got one, we've got individual window lockouts, so You can choose which side to look out or not. You can have favourite children if you really want to. Now, climbing inside, we have gone for everything as luxurious as possible. There is an absolute acreage of leather and wood in here. And there were so many choices of things you could have. The seats are large, they're fairly flat actually, but well bolstered, very soft, nice perforated leather. It is a huge leather seat, but it does have a Volkswagen-y look. They've got the family look in here somehow, but with touches of solid chrome to add a little bit of extra ambience. Although these are, at the entry point of the car, only a mere 12-way. You've got a little signifier here to show where, if you'd gone for the 18-way seats, you could have had electric headrests as well. And when we first climb in, it's an aura of hush and refinement. Beautiful finish, beautiful. The Phaeton finish is exemplary. We've got this beautiful wood. There are many choices of wood actually you could go for. I'll show you something very exciting in a second. At the moment, with the car turned off, our air vents are rolled over, so we've got the back-facing real wood, a bit like on a Bentley, again, Volkswagen family, that hides everything, so you're not looking at ugly vents when the car isn't active. We have a vast T-shelf area, but I'd be very, very worried to put stuff on there because it's all perforated. I'm thinking that's because ventilated air comes through there. There were 100 patents issued for this car, one of which includes draftless 4-zone individual climate control. So I'm guessing lots of air wafts through there. There's even a little bit of timber up there underneath the windscreen. So we are fully timbered up as far as you like. We do have a beautiful Breitling analog clock in the centre, which I can't tell because the 12 hand is through the middle of it, but it looks a lot like the Bentley logo in the middle. They surely wouldn't borrow a Bentley clock for a VW, would they? Or if they put a VW logo, yes they have, they put a VW logo inside the Bentley wings. But still, it's a Breitling, which is nice. Moving to the front of the driver, we have got a plethora of analog dials and the word Phaeton resplendent in the centre on a physical sticking out gloss black with chrome name tag. So we've got our rev counter on the left, redlining 4,500 RPM. We've got our speedometer on the right, all looking very discreet indeed. The speedometer actually looks quite Rolls-Royce-esque. We're going up all the way to 200 miles an hour, although the car was electronically limited to 155. We've got our voltmeter on the right, oil temperature, water temperature, fuel level and sub-dials. And we've got an LCD screen in the middle showing other information. Moving back from that, we have a beautiful, well, it's a 4-spoke steering wheel, isn't it? Lovely, lovely 4-spoke wheel, many big solid buttons. I love the fact we've got genuine buttons. There's no touchscreen nonsense. There is a touchscreen because this generation brought about touchscreen infotainment for the centre thing, and this is I'm going to upset the owner now. This is the same screen we had in the Seat Leon at the time, but we'll say that quietly. It's a good device though. It's a very good system, and at least you have still got a physical volume control and physical buttons for all the sides. This was much preferred to the version that followed it. Jumping back to the steering wheel though, we have got our horn in the centre. Pop the power on and we can quickly give a horn test. Well, that's what an ultra-luxury horn sounds like. It's quite subdued, to be perfectly honest. Behind that delicious, smooth, actually very hard steering wheel rim, we have got two things. We've got Bentley-like chrome knurled tips on our stalks, and we've got flappy paddles for manual override gear shifting on the automatic gearbox. Auto was the only option on this car. They've taken a bit of Mercedes influence just there and given us the foot pedal with hand release, above which we've got the tiniest little light switch you ever did see. Fog lights front and rear above that as well, and little controls for our air vents just there. Moving back into the centre, we have got tons more of this delicious wood. It is absolutely beautiful. This is Volkswagen family infotainment and heating and controls actually. They've kind of double stacked the buttons to add a few more controls, but yeah, you'll find this in most of the Volkswagen range from the mid-teens. Beneath which we have got a tiny little ashtray on the left and on the right with a beautiful slide out action. It's a lovely smooth motion and a little cap that flips up as well to hide the mechanism. Very pretty indeed. Moving back, we've got our gear shift area. A big panel of piano black in the centre of this fabulous wood, which has got the gear shifter, which Bentley-like has got lots of chrome on it, and a leather cap. a physical key switch to turn the airbag off. You can't do that by mistake, but it is here in the centre, interestingly. We've got our lighter to the left, and we've got our electric mirrors on the right, and a few other controls, including our variable heat level heated seats. Now this is an interesting little touch just here. This little crosshair thing is not to aim at peasants and so you can take down whichever low-life poor person is in your way. These are the cup holders, which slide down and latch into place when you want to use them. This little crosshair grid is actually to protect the wood from your tea and coffee cup. And then to return it to the top position, there's a little button just tucked inside there, and it slides up in its own time. Very pretty indeed. Behind that we've got a big leather-topped cubby hole with a hookup for a phone as an option. Above us we have got a sunroof, electrically controlled of course, and this is a very, very variable control for said sunroof. Now this is impressive in the front, but if you climb into the back of this long wheelbase beast, you'll be even more impressed. Now this is the personal luxury chauffeur-driven version, long wheelbase. Just look at the length of this bit of timber just here. It is just an entire tree. It's pretty redwood or something in there. But this door is phenomenal. We have got blinds in the main window. Click in there. We've got blinds in the quarter light. We've got central locking, we've got Dyne audio, high quality audio for the tweeters, and the main speaker down there. We've got actual leather in the armrests, electric windows, bits of metal, big door pocket, and then check this little silver button just here. This is your latch tray, which rolls out of the side of the door. Beautiful, lovely action to that movement as well. Now climb inside here, and there is so much room, you will not believe it. One little detail as we climb in is the attention to detail just here, and the fit and finish of this entire car. We've got the chrome strip, the swage line that runs down the length of the vehicle, and it doesn't just end here on the back of the door. They've taken the time and trouble to add 1.5 centimetres of chrome to the rear wing, which is almost pointless, but it completes the look, and it's an expensive car that looks and does feel very expensive. Now normally I'll be hand holding the camera for this bit and walking around all of the interior stuff, but I need both hands for this one because there's just so much to see and do in here. There's so much room for activities. We've got on the B post a controllable little air vent which you can click on and off and heat the side windows. That's insane. We've got heated seats down here. We've got a 12-volt power socket just there. We've got digital controls for the air vents. There are a pair of air vents in the back of there. Then we have got this little screen just here. Push the button, it slides out, and you can remove the little screen. And on the little screen, you can control remotely the air conditioning. You can control the audio and infotainment in the front of the car, and you can monitor what the car's doing, how fast you're going, all kinds of little things like that. It's quite a phenomenal level of control from this little piano black tablet sitting in the back of the car. Meanwhile, we have got just oodles of legroom. There's so much space, you will not believe it. We have also got a big armrest which contains a pair of cup holders and a storage bin which got the first aid kit in it. We've got another headrest which folds forward if you've got a third passenger in there. We've got a bank of lighting controls up here, and we have these fold down vanity mirrors with lights on both sides. Very, very posh indeed. The ceiling does actually feel quite low, surprisingly low considering how big the car is. But this is a beautiful view through the front, and that dashboard is just lovely. Volkswagen's clean and minimal family look actually works really well for a modern take on super luxury here. Now getting into the boot of the Phaeton requires a little bit of ingenuity and knowledge. There's a hidden button. There's a hidden button in the form of the top part of the V. And there's a hidden keyhole in the bottom of the W as well, if you need to use the physical key ever. Inside, we've got a very deep boot, goes back a long way, but not a lot of width to be surprisingly honest. There is a locker on each side. One side has got the battery and the fuses behind these lovely little chrome switches to let you in. There are solid metal chromed lash down points. There's a net on the right hand side, and this will amuse you greatly. Inside this beautiful leather attaché case, we will find Volkswagen's Phaeton sales kit. So we have got all of the different leather choices that you could have had. So blue, beige, black, grey, all the colours you can choose to trim your Phaeton with, to compare with all of the different wood surfaces. There's 4 different woods that we've got here, different finishes, which once you've chosen one, you can then place over the clock in the centre so you can see how it matches. And if you really want to, you can go all out. You could have marquetry in your trim, which is beautiful. I don't know whether they're offered in the UK or not. And you can compare that to the different carpet options. And of course, underneath, we've got the colours. So you can choose what shade of blue, black or grey apparently. The colours are fairly limited, surprisingly limited on the outside. We've got black, let's go for a nice metallic blue. And the kit includes a nice little cutout of the car. You can put your chosen colour up here and place the cutout on top of it to see what it looks like. It's a slightly basic way of doing things, but I guess it's pre-CGI. This is your physical car configurator. Oh, you can have cloth. I didn't realize you have cloth as well. Now, one thing the Phaeton was well known for was the fact that many of them, well, some of them, came with the famous W12 engine, the same thing as the Bentley's got, which is an absolute masterwork, a masterpiece of engineering. However, more practical and day-to-day useful was the fact it also came with a 3-litre V6 diesel, which with 245 horsepower makes it quite a useful car to drive around economically and as spiritedly as you would want to in a car like this. Right, I've taken the car a different route to my test route to usual, because normally I go down a quite narrow country lane. Because this thing is basically the size of the Crown Victoria, I didn't really want to go down those narrow lanes, so I've brought it to the countryside down bigger roads. Now, did you notice the wood retracting into the dashboard as the engine fired up then? So let's get going to see what this thing's like on the road. And the thing that strikes you really is, apart from how big it is, but you don't really notice it too much on the open road. Maybe in traffic you'll feel it a bit. But here in the countryside, it just glides around. You'll hear the engine just purring very quietly indeed. The V6 diesel just making a gentle, gruff sound. Quite dignified, quite refined actually, quite pleasant. I rather like it. But we've got almost no road noise at all. I can hear virtually no tyre noise. I can hear no wind noise at all. That incredible 4-zone climate thing, I can feel a presence of cool air. I can't really feel a draft as such blowing on me unless I put the fan on very high indeed. I can hear a bit of wafting of air now, but still can't really feel the draft. There was 100 patents issued for this car when it was built, which is a lot of patents, not only for the air conditioning, also for things like the suspension and the cruise control, because this has got air suspension. It's 4-wheel drive, Torsen 4-wheel drive, like on an Audi Quattro. It's got air suspension with Skyhook technology, which means it just floats along the road, and seriously, it is just drifting down the road with incredible refinement. It's just a delight to be in. So smooth and so silent, and the controls are so light. It really is quite remarkable, frankly. Steering has very little weight to the wheel itself, but you can kind of feel the weight of those enormous wheels. And also the other thing that strikes you is you can feel the mass of the car. You can tell it's not a light sports car, because about 2.5 tons. This thing's about 250 kilos heavier than an Audi 8 4.2 litre long wheelbase. So there's a fair bit of mass in this car. Okay, we're going over the speed hump test. Remarkably little sound of rattle or bump as we go over those clonk clonks. Now, Volkswagen had enormous hopes for this car. Not only was the development cost astronomical for it, they went to the extent of building an entirely new production facility to manufacture it. They called it the Glasien Manufacture, or the Transparent Factories. It's a beautiful glass cathedral of industry in Dresden where they built these things. And they were geared up to make 20,000 cars a year worldwide. However, it never hit those targets. 6,000 a year was really all they got to. And so, although the car had been released to the public in 2003, in America they killed it in 2006. Here in Europe, 2015 and in China 2016, there was talk of a second generation, like an all-new, perhaps electrified version, but sales weren't strong enough to justify that, and the transparent factory was turned over to building the new e-Golf. Performance feels remarkably sprightly for such a big heavy thing, and you might think that 3 litres isn't big enough to shift this thing along, but 245 horsepower, it's enough to give it a little bit of poke, and it can, well, not exactly fly away from the line, but certainly sprint away quite respectably. There were a few engine options available to the car. With petrol, we had a 3 litre and a 3.2 litre V6, we had a 4.2 litre V8, and of course we had the 6 litre W12. And in diesel, we had more choices still. We had the 3 litre and the 3.2 V6s and a 5 litre V10. Diesel, wow. So when they were designing this car, they were benchmarking it against the big rivals, the established, well-known, obvious ultra-luxury cars, the 7 Series, the S-Class, the big Lexus, that kind of thing. However, there was a couple of choices to be made. To be a true rival to the BMW, you had to go down the sporty route. They went for the more of a luxurious, comfort-orientated route, which puts it more on par with the Mercedes. And the owner, having owned an S-Class as well, actually thinks this is better built and rides better than the Merc. Now you might think that owning a super luxury car might be a bit of a hassle when things go wrong, and you'd probably be right. Only certain VW dealers could look after it, and you're almost better off going to an Audi specialist these days to get them looked at. There are 3 kilometres of wires inside this car, because so many things are automated, things like the air vents, and the motors are concealed out the way so you can't find them. All the fastenings are well and truly concealed as well, so just taking the thing apart would be a nightmare. This particular car is quite an unusual spec. It's the long wheelbase which puts it into the extra luxury bracket, but it's also got some quite interesting spec choices. We haven't got the super luxury seats, but we have got the £1,500 cabin preheater, which warms up the interior and the engine before you get in on a cold day, a bit like what a Tesla will do today. And Phaeton, in case you didn't know, originally it was a sporty horse-drawn trap. Then the early days of motoring is a sporty open-top runaround. But even before that, Phaeton was the son of a Greek god. The automatic gear shift is seamless, I think is the best way to put it. There was a 5 and a 6 speed available depending on what engine you spec'd. But the car went through a number of small updates over its life, those 5 GPO 1, 2, 3, 4 updates, which were gradual increments to keep the car looking fresh and contemporaneous with its potential rivals. And even today, it does still look and feel very modern, and there's virtually no creaking, no rattling. It feels so well screwed together. This car's got 87,000 miles on it. The thing that gives it away as being a slightly older car is, first of all, the infotainment screens and LCDs just look a little bit dated in comparison with more modern vehicles. But also, and this is a good thing by the way, we've got actual buttons everywhere, real physical controls. Gosh, an early Mini. Real physical controls which are so nice to use rather than stupid touch screens which plague all modern vehicles I go in and are horrible to use. This though is nice and tactile and physical and a very good thing. This thing just flies to 60 really quite happily. It does though feel like a big car. You look down the bonnet, you can't really see where the edges of it go to. You cannot see any of the boot in the rear view mirror, so thankfully there's a backup camera in this one. You do have to be aware of how big your car is and of course where the edges of it are. Well, thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this drive out in this delightful slice of elegance and extravagance. Very much a vanity project at the end of Ferdinand Piech's career. It's one of those cars that really shouldn't have been pushed into production, but somehow it was. And I, for one, am glad of it, because, well, they may not be common, but they are rather fantastic. I've really enjoyed my little day out in this thing. I hope you've enjoyed watching it. If you have, please hit like and subscribe, and join us again next time driving something completely different.